Hi everyone, I'm Jason Crandell, and this segment is really for yoga teachers and a way of thinking about how to skillfully work with yoga and anatomy. And I want to start by saying a lot of students and teachers are intimidated by anatomy. And anatomy can often feel like a really dry, difficult, overwhelming subject with its own arcane language. And I want to see if we can bridge this gap by encouraging you to think about anatomy in a slightly different way. Okay? And the first thing that I want to address is the fact that you already know much more about anatomy than you think you do. Okay? And I'm saying this because a lot of times we think we don't know anatomy if we can't name all the muscles or all the bones, or if we get confused sometimes between the difference between a ligament and a tendon. And what we have to remember is, well, we know a lot more than we think we know. We know anatomy from a visceral, kinesthetic way. So when you do your practice and when you breathe and when you work with your awareness of the experience of embodiment, that's also knowing anatomy. You might not be able to hang names on top of all of the bones and the muscles and the tendinous connections, but when you feel your body, you are working with anatomy in a very direct way, right? As part of this, what you want to remember is you have anatomy, right? I mean, I see when I teach anatomy, I see everyone wanting to look at books or look at charts or look at pictures, and that's a valuable way of learning. But what we have to remember is you aren't your anatomy, but anatomy is one layer of what you have, right? And so you have access to all of the anatomical information because you have it inside of you, and whether you can feel it or not, your brain has mapped it, right? And so that brings me to my next thought about anatomy is, we want to think about anatomy, or at least I encourage my students and my teachers in thinking about anatomy as like looking at a map and understanding the big picture aspects of a map. So when we see our body and we think about anatomy, it's really important that we don't get stuck in anatomical names and certain details. Right? And then the last thing that I want to encourage for you is, even if you do know a lot of anatomical name and information, when you teach, do your best to use common language. Okay? Because as a teacher, we want to be able to communicate effectively with our students. And if we are using a language that our students don't know without educating them along with the process, then we're losing them. So for example, instead of saying, right, for me, instead of calling the thigh bone the femur, I will tend to call it the thigh bone. I always call my thigh bone the femur because I know everyone in class knows where their thigh bone is. I don't know that everyone in class knows where their femur is. So if I want to throw out an anatomical name that I think a student might not know, I try and tell them what it is. But generally, I stick with anatomical terms. Use common terms so that people can actually stay with you and take on that instruction that you're giving that's so valuable. Okay? Hopefully this is helpful in your practice and your teaching. Take care.